Who's Dennis Prager, and what is Prager University?
Dennis Prager's a really funny guy. Um, he's like this really old boomer. I feel like he's cut out of time a little bit here, you know? He feels like he would have fit really well as like a host of like a late 90s or early 2000s conservative shock jock radio show. But then one day he heard about like the concept of Roosevelt and the fireside chats, and he got really, really conceited over it. You know, he was like, I'm gonna be different. I'm gonna be better. He's the thing that I always associate with him more than anything else is that I think he's like pro-rape, and he keeps making articles and videos to support it. He's written articles on like why wives should put out even if they don't want to for their husbands, and he's written an article on like why women shouldn't be offended if men like leer at other women when they're out or something. It seems like every once in a while he gets into an argument with his wife. He quickly types up an article and then he like shows it to her, you know? He's like, hey,
look at what this study says.
Yeah, look at this. Hey, come on. See, look at the guy. He's like hiding the author with his thumb, like from the printout, you know? He did a screen print too, so you can see like the taskbar at the top and like the icons at the bottom. As for Prager University, it's basically just like very well edited 5-minute video essays, in the vein of like the kind of thing that you would expect a legitimate like law organization to put out for like training modules for people, you know? The problem is that everything inside of them is absolute dog shit. We actually went over a Prager University video once that was implicitly pro-slavery. They were arguing...
I was going to ask you about this one, yeah.
Yeah, they were arguing that statues of General Lee should stay up. And, you know, the Confederacy, yeah. And,
Civil War general.
Yeah, and they were like, here's why it should stay up. Robert E. Lee put down a slave rebellion, killing the radical abolitionist, like, you know, this radical...
John Brown.
Yeah, John Brown. Yeah, I want to make sure I didn't forget the name, but yeah. And it went on. It was like, you know, and look at it. He decided to fight for... He could have been with the Union, but he decided to fight with the Confederacy. It's like, is this video pro-slavery? I can't tell, but it kind of feels like it is. And then afterwards they like celebrated him because he said he wanted education for black people, but he still didn't think they were as good as white people. The video didn't frame it as though he was like an interesting historical figure. The way it was framed made it sound as though these are affirmations, testimony to his moral worth that we celebrate by keeping up, you know? And it was very, very strange. Funnily enough, after that video was criticized on my channel, broader criticism of it blew up, and then they took it off Twitter. So I wonder if that one was actually a bit too spicy for them, you know?
They really were, it seemed like they were going after the lost cause crowd with that that video. I mean, not only do they, you say, praise General Lee for taking down John Brown, but then they play this weird, like, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon with, like, him and George Washington and Martha's Vineyard. And, like, he's buried right next to where George Washington once took his dog on a stroll. Like, there's, like, these weird connections they try to make. And then they also mention his quote. Like, how they thought it would be a good idea to include this quote is beyond me. But his quote where he's like, slavery was worse for white people because... You know,
because black people are better off here as slaves than they were in Africa. And that happened. The video was like, like, what? You know, the real victims of slavery were white people because they had to like put up with black people. At least black people got a free ride to America, right? It's like, oh my God. I really do believe that like a lot of the conservative commentators we're talking about right now would be totally okay with bringing back slavery. I like give them like 5 years if they were convinced it was a politically expedient path to take. If there was some big like social uprising that for that sort of thing that they could profit off of, I think they'd be pushing for it. Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand how perilously close we are to about a century of social progress getting Thanos snapped out of existence by how radically far right some like political commentators are. It did not used to be like this. I remember Fox News back during the Bush years was incomparable to Fox News now. Not to say it was good back then. It wasn't. They still lied. They were still far right. They were still bigoted, sleazy pieces of shit. I'm not that hasn't changed. But the extent to which and the types of conservative stuff they pushed, it is incomparable to what we see today. So I don't know. I guess we'll see. I'm on the anti-slavery bandwagon. We'll see if that pays off.
I'm going to agree with you, and I'm going to add to that. These people that we're talking about, they're pro Blue Lives Matter. They're pro incarceration. So as far as I'm concerned, they're already pro slavery. Like,
yeah, with the way that, and yeah, the state will like private
you're already
prisons
in that camp.
The state will yeah, rent out prison labor to corporations for pennies on the dollar. Yeah. It's pretty wild.
You're already a slave master. So we sort of talked broadly about the content on PragerU. Have you seen the new stuff they're doing with kids? This like Leo and Layla stuff, where they're it's like because like it's scary because PragerU is actually played in schools, right? Aren't there? I mean, private schools I'm sure play them, but aren't there public schools playing PragerU videos as well?
Some teachers do.
Like, they're very widely circulated, and now they seem to be going for a younger. Whoops.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, haven't. Oh, yeah. Unplugged the headphones.
Clumsy me, and now they seem to be going after this younger demographic.
Well, religious evangelicals have always been like that. It's easier to convince people to be religious when they're young. It's easier to convince people to believe anything when they're young. And there has always been a concerted effort on the part of conservatives to get them as young as possible in every way. I actually did a video on what to do if Prager University is showed at your school. It's a video that I'm very, very proud of, because if you're a student, like a high school student, and a Prager University video is watched, and you know it's BS, which if you watch my content enough to be aware of the existence of that video, then I'm assuming you probably can recognize that. It's really difficult to push back against that. Because if you see a Prager University video in a school, like, there are 30 kids in that classroom, maybe, and a professor who agrees with the content of that video, that's why they showed it. You gotta, like, argue and argue with everyone, like, actually, that was highly inaccurate, and then, like, the 20-minute breakdown that you'd need, it's really, really difficult to do, so I'm happy with that video. I did cover one of those, like, PragerU Kids things, where they went back in time and they saw Ronald Reagan. That was just really funny. That was just too fun. I didn't even have commentary, really. It was just really, really funny. It was just me pausing every 5 seconds and laughing.